Here's your equations and inequalities study guide explained. The directions for part 1 are to graph each inequality on the provided number line. As a quick review, if the symbol is greater than or less than, you would use an open circle on the number line. If the symbol is greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, then we would use a closed circle because it would include that value, be equal to that value. So for number 1, we have x is greater than 4. This would have an open circle on 4. So somewhere on your number line, you're going to put 4. So I'm going to go ahead and put 3, 4, and 5 on my number line. And I'm going to have an open circle on 4. And it says x is greater than 4, so we'd want to point to the right. For number 2, we have x is less than or equal to negative 5. So this will be a closed circle on negative 5. So I'm going to put my two numbers surrounding negative 5, and I'm going to do a closed circle because it's less than or equal to negative 5. And numbers that are less than negative 5 are to the left, so shade to the left. For the next one, I see another greater than or equal to 10, so that's going to be a closed circle. So you're going to put 10 on your number line. So I'm going to go 9, 10, and 11 on my number line. Closed circle on 10. And x is greater than, so pointing to the right, values to the right of 10. And our last one, x is less than 2, so that's going to be an open circle. So I'm going to put 1, 2, and 3 on my number line. Open circle on 2, and numbers less than 2 would fall to the left. Okay, now we're going to review solving equations. Okay, remember we use our inverse operations to isolate the variable. For number 5, my first step would be to add 8 to both sides. So on the left I have negative 4y, and on the right, negative 28 plus 8 is negative 20. And then the next step to get y by itself, remember that when a number is next to a letter that means multiplication, the inverse of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 4 to get y by itself. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 20 divided by 4 equals 5. So y equals 5. Okay, number 6 is a multi-step equation. Okay, I do see some parentheses on the right. That's when we use that distributive property. This outside number gets multiplied by both terms inside. 9 times x is 9x, and 9 times a negative 4 is negative 36. Okay, so I'm simplifying the right side. On the left side, I notice that I have 6x and 3x. So we can combine those like terms in our first step to simplify the left side. That's going to be 9x, and then bring down the negative 5. Okay, now we have to get our letters to the left. So I'm thinking I'm going to subtract 9x, subtract 9x, and those are both going to cancel out and become 0. So on the left side I have negative 5, and on the right side I have negative 36. Now this looks like something that's not true, that's a false statement. Negative 5 does not equal negative 36. So this is an example of an equation that has no solution. Okay, number 7, lots of steps here. I'll put my line down the equal sign. On the left, I see that there's parentheses again, so we'll use the distributive property to clear the parentheses. Negative 8 times 2 is negative 16x. And negative 8 times a positive 3 is negative 24. On the right, I do see there's negative 9x and negative 7x, so we can combine those, and that's going to be negative 16x, and bring down your negative 24. Ooh, I see twins. The left side is the same as the right side. If I did want to go one more step and add 16x to both sides, you can see that would cancel out, and we'd be left with negative 24 equals negative 24. Does negative 24 equal negative 24? Yes. This is a true statement. So this is called twinfinite or infinite solutions. Okay, so if you come up with twins, that means all of the solutions would work. Any solution would work. For number 8, there's a couple of different ways to handle this. I do notice fractions. And so one way to do this would be to clear the denominator. And I'm eyeing up this 6 right here. So if I multiplied the entire, all of the terms by 6, I would be able to clear out that all the fractions. So a 6 times x divided by 6, that's going to be 1x, or just x. 6 times 2 is 12, and 12 divided by 3 is 4x. 6 times 4 is 24, and 24 divided by 1 is still 24. And then 9 times 4 is 54. Okay, so by multiplying every term in there by 6, I was able to clear the fraction. So next, I'm going to simplify. I see here 1x and 4x. That's going to simplify to 5x. And then once I get it to here, you guys are really good at following these two-step equations. I'm going to subtract 24 on both sides. 5x equals 30, divide by 5, divide by 5, so x equals 6. Oh, that's interesting. So we use 6 to clear the fraction, and our answer ended up being 6. Okay, you could have also just changed it to decimals if you wanted to, or just try to handle the fractions, but I like to clear the fractions to simplify the problem. Okay, let's state which is a solution to the given inequality. So let's solve the inequality first. So I'm going to use that distributive property again. This outside 3 times x is 3x, and then 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And now I'm going to follow my 2 steps here. Add 12 to both sides. Okay, so 3x is greater than or equal to 24. Divide by 3, divide by 3. So x is greater than or equal to 8. Okay, so now we're going to select all of the solutions to this inequality. Okay, so greater than or equal to 8. Well, we have 8. And we could also say 10 would be a solution because 10 is greater than 8. So both of those would work. We could not have A and we could not have B because our answer is all numbers that are equal to 8 or greater than 8. Okay, for 10, we have to choose the correct graph that represents the inequality. So here I want to solve the inequality. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. 1/4 x greater than or equal to 2, because negative 6 plus 8 is 2. And then to get rid of a fourth, I can multiply by the reciprocal, 4 over 1, or just 4, to get that to cross out. So x is greater than or equal to 8. Okay, so greater than or equal to 8. That is going to have to be graph D, because it has a closed circle and it's pointing toward numbers that are greater than 8. Okay, for the next set, we're going to solve and graph, and make sure you're showing your work. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to divide by a negative. Divide by a negative. Do you remember that hint that we had on the board? When you divide by a negative, you have to flip the inequality. Okay, so I'm going to divide by a negative, and then I have to remember that I had to reverse the inequality. And then a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay, so I get x is less than 3. So on the number line, I'm going to put 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Okay, less than 3. So I'm going to have an open circle, and numbers smaller than 3 are going to point to the left. Okay, so remember, in this step right here, if you're multiplying or dividing by a negative, you have to reverse the inequality. Okay, for this one, this reads x is being divided by -8. The inverse of division is multiplication. So I would multiply both sides by -8. And I'm multiplying by a negative. So I do have to remember that hint from the last one, that we have to reverse the inequality. If that last step, if we multiply or divide by a negative, in that last step, we have to reverse the inequality. Okay, so x is greater than or equal to -72. Okay, so on my number line, it's going to be a closed circle, and I need -72 on here, and then -71 would be here, and -73 would be here. Okay, so closed circle on -72, because it's greater than or equal to, and then numbers that are greater than or equal to -72 point to the right. Okay, let's keep going. Looks like we're going to use the distributive property as the first step here to clear the parentheses. 5 times 6 is 30, and 5 times 3x is 15x. Okay, and now I'm going to proceed to solve this one. My variable is right here, so I'm going to start by clearing out this 30 first. That leaves me with 15x is greater than or equal to 97. And to get x by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 15. I do not reverse the inequality because I'm not dividing by a negative. Now this doesn't come out perfect because I've got some odd numbers here. So 97 divided by 15, I get 6.46 repeating. I'm going to go ahead and just round that to 6.5. So let's say that x is greater than or equal to 6.5. It'll be a little bit easier to put on my number line. So 6.5. So I need 6.4, 6.5. Actually, I'm going to do, how about I'll just do 6, 6.5, and 7 on my number line. Okay, so x is greater than or equal to 6.5, so I'm going to do closed circle and to the right. Okay, moving on. This next one, it looks like we have variables on both sides. So let's move our 3x to the left first. Let's clear the x's out, get our variables together. So I can rewrite this now. 9x minus 3x is 6x. equal to negative 12. Okay, our next step, subtract 24 on both sides. Okay, please be careful with the negatives here. And that is going to be negative 12 minus 24 is going to be negative 36. Okay, now 6, this means 6 times x. The inverse of times is dividing. Now, even though there's a negative over here, we're not dividing by a negative, so we don't flip the inequality. So keep that the way it is, and we're going to get negative 6 as our answer. Okay, so I'm going to go negative 5, negative 6, negative 7 on my number line. Close circle, because x is greater than or equal to negative 6, and numbers greater than negative 6 go to the right. Okay, so our last step here, we did not divide by a negative. That's why we don't flip the inequality. Okay, there's those parentheses again. We're going to use that distributive property. 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 1 is 2. And then bring everything else down. Okay. I'm noticing on the left, I have 5x plus 2x. I can simplify that. That becomes 7x. I'm not using inverse separations because they're on the same side of the inequality. Okay, now I have my 2 steps to follow. So next I would subtract 2 on both sides. 7x is less than 21. And then the final step, divide by 7, divide by 7. X is, and I don't have to flip the inequality. X is less than 3. Okay, so on my number line, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Less than 3, so that's an open circle. And numbers that are less than 3 go to the left. Okay, looks like a lot going on here. Let's just take it step by step. On this left side, I could treat this as a negative 1 in here and distribute that negative. So that's going to be negative 1x, and then a negative times a negative is a positive. And then on the right, I have to distribute the negative 2. So negative 2 times 4 is negative 8x. And negative 2 times 8 is negative 16. Okay, so the first step would be to get rid of those parentheses. All right, next let's get our variables together because we have x's on both sides. I like to move the smaller amount to join the bigger amount. So the smaller amount of x's to join the bigger. So I'm going to add 8x to both sides. Negative 1 plus 8 is 7x. And then I'm bringing everything else down. And now we have it into a 2-step equation. Subtract 6 on both sides. Negative 16 minus 6 is negative 22. And our final step is to divide both sides by 7. And I do not reverse the inequality because I did not divide by a negative. But I do get like negative 3.14. It doesn't come out perfect, but we can just round it. Okay, so I can do negative 3.14 on my number line, and I can do negative 3.13, and over here negative 3.15, something like that, I guess, on my number line. And then I'm going to do open circle, negative 3.14, and x is less than, so we would go to the left. Okay, so that takes care of your review. Let us know if you have any questions.